is
Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to get started in a moment, a little before 2, so we're going to wait till we get a quorum. Go ahead and begin. Thank you. I apologize, everyone. WebEx is not letting me mute the entry and exit tone, so hopefully everyone in momentarily.
all right. It's 2:02, and under special provision from Governor Kay Ivey, we have been granted special permission to hold this public meeting of the Birmingham Land Bank Authority on WebEx. All right, so we will be presenting virtually today, as we have been throughout the pandemic. And I am going to call this meeting to order now. Okay, it's 2:03. So, Mr. Fancher, will you conduct a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Director Hannon,
Present.
Director Watson,
Present.
Director Hatcher, Director Green,
Present.
Director Burton,
Present.
Director Anderson,
Present.
Director Clark.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum.
All right. So it is a pleasure to have everyone here with us today. We will proceed with the board business. And at this time, I will turn the meeting over to Mr. Fancher.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Our first item on the agenda is item 2.4.21.1. And that is a resolution approving applications and authorizing the board chair to execute agreements for applicants for our lot lease program. In this last 30-day period, the only 3 eligible applications that were approved, that passed the minimum qualifications were for Mrs. Valerie Cunningham, and she lives in the North Birmingham neighborhood and has been maintaining the lots surrounding her house on 36th Avenue North.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay.
Do I need to do it in long form?
No, that's fine. That's fine. We just need a second.
Second.
Okay. Director Hannon,
Aye.
Director Watson,
Aye.
Director Green, Director Green,
Yes.
Director Burton,
Aye.
Director Anderson,
Aye.
Director Clark.
Aye.
That passes. The next item is item 2.4.21.2. That is a resolution approving applications and authorizing board chair to execute agreements with applicants for our quiet title program. And again, these applications all were submitted during the last 30-day. They sat for a 30-day period before becoming eligible for board approval. As you can see on the screen, we have the planned uses, the purchase offer amounts, and the applicant information. All these individuals went through staff review as far as applicant eligibility, and the parcels were verified as eligible for programming. And upon approval, each applicant will have to submit an Exhibit B to the property transfer contract, which will outline the steps for their renovation project. They also will have to execute a limited power of attorney, which will give the authority to, in the event of non-compliance, to take title to the property back and convey the property to an individual that is willing to rehab the property or put it back to productive use.
Is there any discussion?
Could you tell me a little bit about BBF Incorporated?
I'll have to pull that information up. They previously were approved by you on another application in December. I'll have to get back with you on that if you'd like to set that one aside. But they've passed staff review.
So I guess I had a similar question, just about the nature of their mission. Is the real estate activity supporting their mission, or is their mission to do this sort of work? Like, are they a strategic partner of some sort, was kind of my question along those lines.
BBF is not recognized as a strategic partner. They have come to us simply to rehab the property and turn it into a rental property. There are minimum standards baked into the contract that will allow for our compliance manager and our housing rehab specialist, who will be out in the field once hired, to go and make sure that the property stays up to minimum guidelines outlined in the contract.
So I just wanted to generally comment that I'm excited that these are mostly structures that will be saved from demolition. So that's, and you know, demolition, we spend money to tear them down, and then we're decreasing the value. So they generate less taxes if people even continue to pay the taxes. So to me, this is the spirit of the value that we add by being able to get, stabilize these properties and keep them on the tax rolls and not have to spend money to tear them down and maintain the weeds that come once they're torn down. So I just wanted to just say, this looks really good.
And I wanted to add an additional comment. This application period, since we've did a comprehensive review of the application process in this last year, we've received a lesser number of applications because we do now, ask an additional amount of questions. We've increased the screening as far as conflicts of interest, if applicants are related to someone in City Hall, if they're business partners with someone in City Hall. We also require them to demonstrate, that they really have thought through the processes of taking a property that's been tax delinquent for 5 years or more, that, the code enforcement part has failed. And so, the properties where, they've already been dilapidated well before their tax delinquency, all these properties take a tremendous amount of rehab and work to bring back up to code, but up to being habitable. And so we try to prompt each and every one of our applicants to, really consider all that goes into it, from connecting utilities back to framing, plumbing, roofing. And so, we are very appreciative of every one of our applicants that go through this process.
Thank you, Director Clark. Is there any other discussion? All right. Is there a motion on the floor?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2.4.21.2.
Second.
Director Hannon.
Aye.
Director Watson.
Aye.
Director Hatcher. Director Green.
Aye.
Director Burton.
Aye.
Director Anderson.
Aye.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Okay, that item passes. Our next resolution is resolution 2.4.21.3. And that is a resolution authorizing a request to the Land Commissioner for the transfer of the state's interest of 12 tax delinquent properties located in the corporate limits of the city of Birmingham to the Birmingham Land Bank Authority. And I will make note that the heading of the resolution says 2, but it should read 12, so we will correct that in the record. These parcels are the parcels that were approved in the previous 2 items, and there's an additional parcel that was approved in a prior meeting that did not make it onto the request letter, that item 12. So there are no strategic acquisition parcels or anything. All of these are related to an application.
Mr.
A
Fancher,
motion to
question. Can you remind the board how many properties total we've processed thus far? I know we've updated our website to show how many properties we've taken through the quiet title process as well as, oh, good. Ha, you've got it right there. Good.
And we will, I will tell you, we do have an annual report coming out in this next week. We're finalizing the financial numbers with our finance department. We've populated a lot of information, but there have been some, roll up processes from previous fund balances that have been, needed to come together. So, we will have a complete plan as we.
Yeah.
Report. We will include our annual budget proposal to you all.
Right. So from what I see is that there is, Mr. Fancher, you are going to present on those numbers that Director Anderson spoke of. But let's deal with this resolution here first. Okay. So is there any other discussion surrounding this resolution? All right. So I'll make a motion to approve this resolution with the stated changes from 2 to 12.
Second.
Okay. Director Hannon.
Aye.
Director Watson.
Aye.
Director Hatcher. Director Green.
Aye.
Director Burton.
Aye.
Director Clark.
Aye.
All right, that item passes. I want to give you a brief update just ahead of next week's annual report release. In addition to the annual report and the draft budget requests, we will also furnish the final foundation documents for you all to review. And as I mentioned in prior communications, we'd like to schedule a special meeting on February 18th to solidify those documents and have the board accept those documents so that we can proceed with the creation of the foundation. So as of right now, we have cleared 514 titles to properties through the land bank process. We're expecting by the second quarter of this year to clear 163 additional ones. We, again, also have another 150 in a strategic acquisition queue that we are planning to deploy for site assembly around the perimeter of downtown Birmingham. We also are setting aside a significant amount of money as we go through this next year to aid in the choice neighborhood grant application process in the Smithfield community, but also to aid other project partners that are working throughout the city of Birmingham. And I'll talk about that in a second. Last year in 2020, we saw an average of 4.5 month period for the duration of quiet title action. This has improved greatly over the last 3 years since we started. And we generally are able, absent any sewer liens or extremely clouded title, we are able to assign a property to an attorney and get it back with a reasonable amount of time. And we're able to communicate that time period, that expected time period, to the end user so that they can complete their planning. So we're excited about that. Our quiet title attorneys and judges have been excellent in seeing these actions throughout the whole period with the pandemic. The judges switched over to holding virtual hearings, and they continued working through our title insurance companies, worked with us to provide abstracts to our attorneys and to move things forward. To date, we have quitclaimed over 104 properties, either through our lot lease program or our redemption programs. And just a manual review of the tax records, we see, from this last year, about almost $18,000 in tax revenue. And that may seem low, but it's also because, many of our end users are nonprofits. Many of them, have obtained title to the property during, a tax year where, taxes haven't been assessed yet. So, over the next couple of years, we'll be able to really see an accurate picture of the collections of the tax revenue from not only these quit claims and redemptions, but from the number of properties that we've sold. We've sold over 354 parcels. And again, what we see is, we've seen about $64,672 in tax revenue coming back in. Again, a number of those parcels did not have assessments for 2019, 2020. So as assessor and collector work to, catch up with a lot of these conveyances, we should see a significant increase in that number. So with all of that, we really say about 458 parcels have been taken out of the Public Works maintenance queue. That's theoretically properties that we've conveyed to a responsible end user, or parcels that were redeemed by people who wanted to take back title and ownership and maintain the property. All of those are theoretically taken out of the Public Works maintenance queue. And we know we're not in a perfect world where that's entirely true, but as we go forward, we're going to continue to work to ensure that anyone that purchases a parcel through our program will make sure that this is a net benefit for the city of Birmingham. That means they're paying taxes on the property, but there's no Public Works request to come cut their grass. There's no demolition of the structure on their property. What we do want to see is permits, people pulling permits. We want to see sewer impact fees when people are connecting utilities and property taxes. And also just a, benefit to the community, turning an abandoned house, turning a vacant lot into an asset for the community.
Right. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh. So some of the projects that we still continue to work on with Titusville Development Corporation, we had 22 parcels that were being acquired and assembled for the planned 50 House Greek Streets initiative. Also, as a companion, not an official companion piece, but basically a companion piece to that, Build Up and Navigate have been working together around Booker T. Washington to acquire properties for home relocation and rehabilitation. If you drive over there right now, you'll see one brand new house that was recently completed right on the corner of 1st and I think 4th Street, right at the edge of Booker T. Washington. So we're excited about continued progress with them. We have identified approximately 20 additional lots that are being processed for this partnership with them. Woodlawn Foundation, again, has been working on a tremendous initiative to gain control of parcels in their community and implement affordable housing plans. They have indicated that they will be providing us an update in the very near future about the current status of a number of their parcels. They have recently opened the school over in the First Baptist Church, and the land bank played a part in acquiring a number of the parcels around that facility to facilitate their plans of adding infill housing. So we look forward to seeing those plans come through and those houses pop up. But again, this all takes time, from its acquisition to planning to development. And we're proud to have each of these groups as partners in this process. We are also working on various neighborhood site assembly projects for infill housing, currently taking place through our strategic acquisition program. If you drive to the Fountain Heights neighborhood and Druid Hills, we are working to gain control of as many parcels as possible, not to convey to just any Joe Blow or anyone, but to make sure that we have the control and that the board is able to align itself with the city of Birmingham and the stated community framework plans and work to make sure what we are conveying these parcels out to the end user is something that is in line with what the citizens want in that neighborhood through their participation in the framework planning process. So we're excited about the aggressiveness that the aggressive activity we've taken towards acquiring and securing the number of parcels around the perimeter. And, we are working with community development and our planning department to look at other areas throughout the city, because it's just not the thing where the land bank acquires properties and all of a sudden the house just pops up. It takes infrastructure improvements. It takes private investment. It takes community development, federal dollars, economic development, all these entities to come together to complete a plan. So we look forward to having these parcels ready for participation with these partners, and ready for more housing, more commercial, and whatever else fits in line with the wishes of the citizens of each and every one of them. We're working with Habitat for Humanity. We've cleared title to several sites in East Lake alongside the Cascade Plunge development. We also are securing additional parcels around that Cascade Plunge development to aid in adding additional houses around that project. We're also working in the Wahoma neighborhood. We cleared 11 parcels near Wahoma Park. If you drive over there now, you'll see the survey stakes. And we hope that we'll see some houses coming up near the end of this year in that area. So, we're excited about all the partnerships that have come in place. And I know I've missed some of them, but it's just a taste of them. We also are working on some commercial development in several areas, but I'm not prepared to really talk through those details yet. But we're excited about the progress that we've made.
So, Eric, may I, or Director Hannon?
Yes.
May I? I just wanted to just react to something you said, Eric, that I think is very thoughtful with regard to Druid Hills area. As you know, the company I work for is involved in the Caraway redevelopment. The city's a partner, and we've been going to neighborhood meetings over there for years. But also, Protective is naming the stadium, and there's just a lot of convergence. And I think, there's a real desire to help, the long-term indigenous residents in that area keep pace with what's about to happen to them, and to preserve equity to the extent that's possible, given that, the rental markets will probably be impacted and a lot of people might end up moving out, but at least, the long-term homeowners can sort of, stay in the area if that's their desire, and improve their homes and so forth. So we've been talking with Neighborhood Housing Services and Habitat and others about owner-occupied rehab, and just, having some investment happen in that area, with the people who've been living there for a long time, who are really distressed about the conditions of the neighborhood. So, hearing the way you're approaching investing in that neighborhood, I mean, it just gives me a lot of comfort. And I just think we're going to be able to do something really significant with all parties sort of rowing in the same direction toward the same end over there. So.
Yes. I will mention that we receive today, we receive dozens of inquiries on each and every one of the parcels in Fountain Heights and Druid Hills. And if you drive around, a number of those neighborhoods, especially Druid Hills right now, you would think that a number of those properties are in the land bank or land bank eligible or are abandoned, but they're not tax delinquent. People are buying tax deeds, tax certificates, and sitting on them. And that passive speculation is what rots out our neighborhoods. And that, again, by us clearing title to properties, holding them, and making sure that there is a plan in place and that we are aligned with partners to really consider the needs of all the residents, we are interrupting that passive speculation, and with the hopes of, benefiting those long-term citizens and the city of Birmingham. We could, in a second, liquidate everything and, make a good amount of money for the land bank. But the point of the land bank is not to take in immediate revenue right now, just make a quick sale. It's to aid in neighborhood revitalization, and that involves long-term planning and collaboration across city departments, across public and private sectors, and that is our goal. And that's where we're, taking this authority. Even though we have a harder route than other land banks across the country with our tax foreclosure laws and property laws, I think we have, taken in a number of properties and taken steps in this past year to do something really special, not only in the area we just spoke of, but with all the areas where we're working to work with partners and all the areas where we're working with individual purchasers and lot lease participants.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, permission granted.
I would just reiterate what Director Clark has said, and I think Eric and his staff has done a tremendous job in kind of helping to shepherd this process, helping to educate the board on these critical areas throughout the city and how we can strategically begin to acquire these properties to help navigate that kind of difficult road between the best interests for the existing residents along with the necessary growth and remediation that is often required in some of our most distressed neighborhoods. So I just commend Eric and staff. Look forward to his continued leadership.
Yep.
So,
You mind if I add something as well?
yes, permission granted, Director Burton.
Thank you, Dr. Hannon. I just wanted to thank again Eric for all the work there. I think the creation of our strategic acquisitions of tax deeds that Eric started. It's part of what Eric just said is a part of the reason why I've been so happy we did it. Being able to kind of get ahead of that speculative process in order to build equity is such a crucial part, and it reminds me of many of the conversations that those of us who have who were on the land bank when Mr. Brian White worked with us as a consultant. Some of those conversations we had with him. For those who were not on the board at that time, I definitely recommend y'all looking back through the report Mr. Brian White wrote for us. Those were some great conversations I think our board had, and being able to begin these conversations of how to focus on equity. And something that I know with Dr. Clark's bringing up of Caraway, something that I think we're going to go ahead and have to make some really difficult decisions and have some hard conversations, but ultimately for the better of the neighborhood with this upcoming conversation on Smithfield Court. Because I do believe it's possible to both do development, uplift the current residents, and maintain affordability for renters there. And so I think we got some time there to kind of have those conversations early before any development starts happening. So I'm looking forward to having those conversations and how that relates to our strategic acquisition for those tax deeds.
Right. All right. With that being said, Mr. Fancher, do you mind going back a couple of slides? Yes, right here. So when we look at the revenue, the income for the 354 parcels sold, we're looking at an income of $64,672.10. I mean, would it be accurate? Can we say that we are generating about $182 tax revenue per parcel sold? Would that be accurate?
It would be a low number. A number of those parcels did not have any property tax assessed, so there were a significant amount of zeros. And so we were working, in these next few months, these next few weeks, the tax collector's office is still bringing in money. So we'll see tax payments roll again up until March, up until the date of the tax sale. So it's better to really grab the number later on this year, closer to the tax sale. Because I know my property taxes just posted this past week, even though I paid them in November. So,
Right. All right. So with that being said, I would like to use my privilege as the chairman of this board, and I would like to attach a vote of confidence and support to that item. If you go back to the item, please. All right, so this is item 2.4.21.4. And Mr. Fancher, I have known you to be a very competent and very productive leader of the land bank. And I appreciate your hard work. I know that you work on weekends, that you have, made a lot of sacrifices for the benefit of the residents of the city of Birmingham. That's why I joined the board, right? I want to engage in neighborhood revitalization. I want to empower the residents of the city of Birmingham. I want to return tax revenue to the city of Birmingham and to the county, right? And I want to accelerate and promote the mayor's 99 neighborhood program. And from what I see here, and I know that there are other metrics that you are going to develop for me. From what I see here is that you are engaged in that process. And I want to bring it to the board now to bring a vote of confidence and support for Mr. Fancher associated with this item.
I'll pause for a second, but I'll second that.
Okay. Is there? So we do have a second?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I think Marshall offered a second, but
yes.
Okay, I wanted to ask a question before
sure.
we vote. I wanted to know, and I'd forgotten, I got so taken away with Druid Hills, I've forgotten my original question. But it was regarding our ability to monitor in the field progress, on the commitments made to restore these properties or maintain them. And I know, I feel like I know from the past that Eric feels like we are going to be in a position to do a better job with this. I just wanted to hear some comments about that as it relates to this operating plan. How well are we going to be able to monitor what, that people are keeping their promises? And I did think of maybe some other indicators too that maybe we could develop, like with the utility companies, that if we could get some kind of report of new utility accounts across a set of parcel IDs or something. I don't know, maybe there's a way to, or like through the permits and inspections, I guess COs and things like that. But anyway, just some more efficient ways
yes.
to try to monitor.
So I'll speak on that. Oh. Yeah. So I basically joined the land bank in 2017, and at that period, we had not closed on a single property. We had the title insurance issue taking place where no one would insure title to parcels. We worked for that entire year of 2017. Mr. Goldman, Mr. Stanley, our other counsel for our Quiet Title Council, and they all worked together to the point where by January of 2018, we were able to close on a single property. Problem was, we received our first quiet title final order in December of 2016. So, and they can continue to roll in during that period. And we had a number of properties that were just backlogged and no way to close on them. So we started that closing process in 2018, and it trickled out, and we finally now have a closing machine where they're able to close anything in about 2 weeks, which is great. So we're now just waiting on our applicants. But one of the things I noticed when we were going through that period was the fact that we're going to have a way to monitor each and every one of these projects. And so we were hoping back then to work with other departments who had people already out in the field to maybe snap pictures every once in a while, or be able to access the permit data and work across departmental boundaries. Everyone is really focused on that area, and we still hope to reach that type of collaboration at some point in the future. But for that next budget year, we did request 3 housing rehab specialists to be out in the field to go out and monitor these properties. Not only to monitor properties that we'd sold, but to evaluate properties that were eligible for the program to see if they were worth saving, to see if they were where they were supposed to be, and also just monitor parcels that we are holding on to for site assembly and so on. That year we asked for 3 housing rehab specialists. The next year we asked for, I think, 2, and the receive any housing rehab specialists. So we put a line item in for outsourcing this function. But fortunately, we were awarded a housing rehab specialist, and we are in the process of, hopefully onboarding this housing rehab specialist to be out in the field to aid us in monitoring each of the tasks that I mentioned before. We have the capability. We've worked with our software provider to place software on an iPad and capture, live data on each parcel. But we also, in this process, have added an additional staff member, an administrative analyst, who focuses on compliance and applicant relations. And Mr. Smith works on that process. And, Ms. Chelsea Law, our administrative clerk, has crafted a page on our website where each and every one of our purchasers has to do routine check-ins going forward. They are providing information on all permits pulled, pictures of the property, and each purchaser has to follow up with our compliance director. It's hard to really to follow through with this program on these older purchases because we used an older contract that predated me.
Yeah.
But each one of those people that have purchased a property does now have a point of contact in our office where they have to provide routine updates on what they are doing with the properties. We also are able to look in our GIS system to see what permits are pulled and so on and so forth. So we continue to work through that process and develop, the process going forward. And we look forward to collaborating across departmental lines to, add to the efficiency of that process. But the addition of, this 1 housing rehab specialist to be out in the field, and, hopefully collaboration across departmental lines will also give us more eyes and ears out in the field to see what's going on. But, going forward, the contracts that we have, like the contracts that y'all approved today, they're a bit more stringent in their requirements for reporting. Each applicant has to fill out a Gantt chart, outlining their project status and so on. So we have, teeth going forward to really push people into, not just every time we ask how you doing on the project, they throw a piece of paint up on the, a stripe of paint and say they're working on it. We actually have concrete milestones baked into our agreements so that we can make sure our applicants and purchasers are doing what they say they want to do. But that front end vetting on our applications also weeds out a number of bad actors too. So,
what you've been able to do, Eric, is you've been able to leverage the technology that, you've kind of identified and recommended to the board. We've reviewed and approved. That technology gives us the ability to, at some point in the future, interface with other departments because they could access this same software. They could access this same technology to be able to create input into our needs that also kind of cross-reference with their needs, so that there is the opportunity, Director Clark, in the future for us to kind of take better advantage of the software so that we can, without having to go out and hire dedicated personnel, we can have kind of that technology that allows us to keep track of these. Because again, that's something that we've learned through that kind of the early growth of the land bank, that there are things we can begin to do to make sure that those residents are being empowered to take better advantage of the properties and to maintain the properties. And those folks that are trying to exploit it and take advantage of it, we identify them earlier now, but even when we kind of get the opportunity later, once they've contracted or have a contract on a property, we can go back and kind of force them into compliance if necessary. And again, that's something the technology has allowed us to do. So.
Well, thank you both.
All right, thank you. Is there any other discussion? I do believe we have a motion on the floor, and we do have a second of that motion. Is there any other discussion? All right, Mr. Finch? Aye.
Director Watson. Aye. Director Green.
Aye.
Director Burton.
Aye.
Director Anderson.
Aye.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Okay. I did want to add a couple of other things really quickly as far as our next steps. I did mention, the budget and the annual report, but as you know, the session started on Tuesday down in Montgomery. The bill wasn't considered in the first Governmental Affairs Committee meeting, but I'm assuming it's going to be considered in the next one. As you know, there was a little amendment that was made to address just an issue with the quiet title process. We did amend 2498 Section A in the initial amendments, and there's one set of a bit of wording in Section B of that clause that needed to be updated. So we updated that to reflect the revisions made in Section A. So we hope to see some progress on that. Look forward to talking to the senator and seeing what the news is on the sponsors. As you know, last year we had a bipartisan lineup of support, including GOP leadership and Democrat leadership on both sides in the House and Senate. So we hope to continue this forward, because this legislation not only changes the process of the quiet title action for us, but again, it takes the amount of time for a parcel to become eligible for the land bank down from 5 years to 3 years. That will really put us in line with institutional investor and all the other people who are out buying tax deeds. It'll put us in line to really assemble complete blocks, be more aggressive in our strategic acquisition, and be able to have better projects that we're able to put out RFPs for development and so on and so forth. So we look forward to that. We also, in that legislation, will lessen the amount of eligible parcels that it takes for a municipality or a county to form a land bank, from 1,000 to 100 parcels. That will, in turn, allow other municipalities across the state of Alabama to create land banks. And again, when it comes time to seek out legislative reform, wholesale progressive reform of tax foreclosure law, property laws, we'll have more people at the table besides Birmingham. It's not just going to be a Birmingham problem. It can be problems, we'll have rural counties and other, municipalities that, are trying to start this process and see the hurdles. And, we need, cooperation across the state to go in and make our legislature work for us and, implement progressive laws that mirror laws that you see in Ohio and Michigan and other areas that aid in neighborhood revitalization. So we look forward to that. We also are looking forward to hopefully getting some information on our funding agreement. That will be the basis of our next 5 years. As you know, our last funding agreement was a 5-year term, and it ran in October of 2019. We submitted this funding agreement to replace it in August of 2019. So we look forward to, getting that resolved, because that lays the foundation for the board to make plans based on a minimum commitment from its partner, its chief partner, and its chief supporter, as it seeks out to make strategic plans for the future, strategic plans to grow, strategic plans to acquire property, strategic plans to, develop disposition processes and policies. So we look forward to movement along those lines. Again, staffing is another issue. We currently have 2 unfilled positions. Each one of those positions is very important. It takes a load off of me. Right now, I'm the field guy and the compliance guy. I'm out driving my car on the weekends, trying to check on as many houses as possible and capture pictures. And so we look forward to, having someone that can fulfill that role. The foundation, as I mentioned before, we had a good meeting last week. Ben, Jack O'Dowd, and Jim Stanley on finalizing the basic documents of this foundation. It's not going to be too complex, but foundation is meant to aid the authority in its operations. Documents to you all, and then taking subsequent action at that next special board meeting. And that is basically all I have on this issue. If you want me to talk some more about land bank, I could fill up an hour, but that's it.
I have one question about what you just said. I know you said we had 2 unfilled positions. I know one of those you mentioned was a housing rehab specialist. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And what was the other one that's currently unfilled?
An administrative assistant. We have an administrative analyst that recently joined us. We hired that administrative assistant prior to hiring the administrative analyst. And at a period in the subsequent months, the decision was made to transfer someone else in that position instead of hiring the person we chose. And that person subsequently retired. So that position sits vacant right now. And I've made the request in December to proceed with filling that position.
Thank you. I know for folks who are maybe newer to the board, I know Eric made a little bit of mention of this, but that funding agreement, if passed, does specify, it outlines procedures for any hirings that the city may have related to the land bank authority. So for example, there's 2 wordings in there. I'd have to pull up the exact page number. But it says that all city employees assigned to the authority must be merit-based hires. And another section says that the Birmingham Land Bank Authority shall have input on the creation of the job description for all new city employee hires to be assigned to the authority. These are things that I think in the past our board has expressed are incredibly important, in addition to the passage of this funding agreement as a whole, which expired on October 29th. It went through October 28th, so it expired on October 29th, 2019. And with all of this, I'm happy to give some additional input, but I wanted to propose the possibility of another motion related to essentially the importance of us getting this funding agreement passed. And I'm happy to kind of outline a little bit if I wanted to get the board's thoughts on the possibility of us doing something along those lines. And if so, I'm happy to kind of give some input about what I was thinking, if that would be helpful.
Yes, Mr. Goldman, can you please advise?
To get myself off of mute. All right, on the request for advice, is that procedurally with how we proceed on that on the agenda? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of, yeah.
The procedural rules are really there for the protection of the minority. so it's always subject to objection. But if you do want to put it for a question on whether to take that up now, then you could have a motion to amend the agenda to take that item up at this.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
I think the funding agreement, all of this is kind of interrelated. Many years ago, I think our mayor asked us to look for ways to establish greater independence, to kind of begin to stand on our own feet. And I think the board took that to heart, took that seriously. The reason for the creation of a nonprofit is so that we can go out and solicit funds. Right now, we're not allowed to by kind of the mechanism through which we were created, our formation. We can't, as a land bank authority, go out and request funds through grants or otherwise. So the foundation allows us to go out and seek grants. Some of the legislative proposals, in addition to allowing us to acquire property more quickly so that we don't have to demolish blighted properties, it also allows us to increase our access to revenues. So those are related. Acquiring and processing properties as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible, it increases our ability to raise revenues, but we have to have staffing. We have to have resources, be it cars, be it computers, be it software. All of those things, it's all interrelated. Our ability to kind of help control our destiny through evaluation of personnel and hiring of personnel, I think those are, again, it's all related. So I think as a board, we need to begin to take concrete steps, serious steps towards stepping out on our own, be that looking for a place to operate that's outside of City Hall. I'm open to us discussing that, exploring that. I think we definitely need to hire our own staff, to begin with hiring our own director. I think that's necessary. I think that gives us kind of a degree of accountability. The executive director accountable to the board. I think that's necessary moving forward. I think the creation of this foundation is necessary to move forward. So those three things, I don't have a resolution per se that feeds into what Director Burton is saying, but I know these things are all interrelated. And I think we as a board need to, like I say, begin to take some concrete steps in that direction.
Right. Thank you so much. My question to Mr. Fancher, as always, is how is this going to empower the residents? Because my concern is, are we staying faithful to our mission? And so again, my position here as chairman is I'm going to always have fidelity to the mission, which is to increase property values, lower the vacancy rate, ultimately return tax money to the county and to the city, and ultimately empower residents. And so I'll give you an opportunity to speak on this.
I'm sorry, just for clarity, was that?
No, this is for Mr. Fancher.
Mixed Fancher, perfect, thank you.
Yes, yes.
And your question is on making steps to increase independence?
One is making sure that we are honoring the fidelity of the mission of the Birmingham Land Bank Authority.
Yes. I mean, I believe making sure that staff is able to, fulfill the needs and requests in the outline mission statement of the board is of the utmost importance. Each of y'all are Birmingham residents and are serving in your own time. You're not being compensated. And so I think it is important to, honor what you all are setting forth as far as your policies and your wishes in each and every one of these meetings. I think establishing a way to make sure our staff can operate at its optimum efficiency is a benefit to the community. Last year, we probably had 4 months of delays to just evaluating applications because we went 375 days without access to vehicles. Last year, we, had software cut off just, with no explanation. And so there were just so many issues that arose that, a wave of a wand by the board could not fix. My bringing it to someone's attention did not fix. And so, these issues do affect the, efficiency and effectiveness of the staff and the ability to, serve our citizens and customers, because customers ask, why aren't applications open? Why, why this, why that? There are things internally that affect each and every one of those operations. If something is broken down here in one place, it affects that output, on our website, or, what's going to happen with the citizen. And, people, there's a saying, systems work. And so the systems have to work. And, each piece has to play its role. The cogs have to work together. And so I think whatever is necessary to push the staff so they can best meet the needs of the authority, whatever is necessary needs to be done. But I mean, it's my hope that we can continue to current arrangement, because if you look across the country, the majority of land banks still rely, even after 20, 30 years, on their municipal partner and everything. So I think it's just going to take a continued, sincere, actual dialogue between you guys and the municipality to come to a resolution to figure out how this can work and how this will work. But I mean, whatever empowers the staff to meet the needs of the board is, needs to be done. It's going to take a strategic plan to really figure that out. It takes, baseline, funding agreement. It takes staff to, have time to figure that out. So, we're looking forward to, continued conversations. I see we have a lot of new faces participating in our meeting, and so we're excited about what's happening in the future. And I think we're going to have to continue to foster that collaboration and moving forward. As I mentioned before, we have a number of strategic acquisition properties in the queue, and that's all going to require working with community development. It's all going to require, working with public works, planning department, is projects we can take on with stormwater. And so we have to figure out a way to, continue to empower the staff to support the board, but also and work with all these entities. Because at the end of the day, we are all here to support the city of Birmingham. And that's right. What we're going to continue to do. And that's what each member of the staff does. Joanne Burrow, she's here every day. Saturdays, holidays. We are all here every day because we believe in what this authority can do. And we'll continue to do so. So, it's just going to take us, a foundation of, figuring out what's in this funding agreement, what we can solidify for the next year so that we can plan a way out.
Right. Okay. Director Burton, your resolution is acknowledged, but I am going to, again, assert chairman privilege at this point, and I am going to call for further discussion. And from what I understand, that the mayor has joined us today, and I think that this will be a good opportunity for him to interject some thoughts.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey, good afternoon to you, Mr. Chairman, as well as all the board, as well as Mr. Fancher and the entire team that works with him. Let me secondly say thank you for all the work that you all do on behalf of the land bank. It is appreciated. Three, I think I've been listening to you all since the beginning of your meeting. In addition to that, in addition to this third point, Mr. Fancher's had a chance to talk with several staff members, and in addition to that, I've had a chance to talk with a few of the board members and understanding some of the gaps, issues, concerns, etc., relationships, all of the above. That being the case, I wanted to speak first to timing. I know several people on this call have been asking for help. Part of what I want to do and my position as mayor is to provide that help. Um, we've had other departments or other friends of the city, such as the BCRI, who have had, I guess, would say they needed some assistance, and the city of Birmingham has been able to provide that in the form of loaning out other staff people on a short-term temporary basis, while there were other things in place to go about filling positions, as you all have shared today. And very similar, that is the goal. So there's a city employee who's a civil service employee. Um, her name is Caroline Douglas. She's a city attorney. She has been working alongside the land bank, and she brings a wealth of knowledge and already familiarity and relationships to add to the work that's already being done. And we have shared that with the chairman, that we wants to onboard her on the 15th of this month. She's on this call just as an introduction, not necessarily a lot of dialogue, conversations, or questions, because I think in between now and the 15th, she looks forward to engaging you all one-on-one dialogue, as well as getting more acclimated to what she's going to be doing day to day, full time, in the short term basis, versus practicing law for the city, where her caseload includes land bank. That being the case, I want to pause and let her say a few words or whatever she want to say, and then she'll turn it back over to me, Mr. Chairman.
Douglas, we cannot hear you.
Try turning your video off and then speaking. No.
Maybe try dialing in on your phone.
Chairman, we'll give her a couple more minutes to get her audio working. While she does that, and Miss Douglas, if you can hear me, just chime in anytime once you feel you got it correctly. Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the city of Birmingham, I've definitely listened to the dialogue that is what's been shared this afternoon, and I think, like you, as mayor, I agree with the fidelity to the mission that you all have. And around this mission, we seek to only assist and help. We know part of that is more communication. So to the other board members, as I've stated to Mr. Chairman, as mayor, I look forward to engaging him more. Um, and more so being in a listening position to really understand how to be better partners with the land bank. Ms. Douglas, are you in a better position now?
I am. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, ma'am. I'll go on mute.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here to hear about the progress that the land bank is making. I am excited to be a part of the land bank in this way. I was involved with the land bank at a very early stage under Attorney Jim Stanley when the land bank was first starting up. I had a really unique advantage to creating the process by which the attorneys are clearing title in circuit court now. I also had a lot of experience working with the circuit court clerk, sitting down with the judges, with Attorney Stanley, explaining to them the nature of these cases and how we wanted them to be expedited through. I also had a unique opportunity to take at least the first 10 cases through the process just to make sure that it worked. I also was able to create the request process that the land bank successfully uses to request tax deeds from the state of Alabama. Now, on the other end, I then represented the city of Birmingham to answer those quiet title petitions on behalf of the city. That has been a unique advantage. I've been able to see when persons who are interested come to redeem, I've been able to interact with the public in that limited capacity. But I do believe the land bank is a great resource. I do think that coming from out of state into Alabama and living here in Birmingham for over 10 years now, I've seen how the land bank can change the landscape of the city, but also can strengthen and grow communities. So I'm just really glad to be a part. I look forward to meeting with you individually. I look forward to working with Mr. Eric Fancher, and in those days to come, I really am excited about what the land bank is doing and how I can help support those efforts.
Thank you, Ms. Douglas. Mr. Chairman, we yield the floor back to you, sir. We wanted to be short in our time. We understand your meeting is already over an hour. And she, as I stated earlier, she doesn't on board to the 15th. So I'm limited in what she can or can't share now. But no, understand, Mr. Chairman, in conversation with you, there's a commitment to reach out to board members one-on-one to understand, listen, and dive in deeper.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mayor Woodfin, and thank you, Ms. Douglas, for your time today and for adding a lot of clarity to the meeting today. I appreciate that. We also appreciate your continued support in the shared mission of making sure that we empower the residents of the city of Birmingham. And so I want to say thank you. All right, so
yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, so Director Burton, I think that you were mentioning a resolution that you would like to bring to the floor.
I would. May I ask a few questions, though, with this news that we just received?
So I do not think that we are in the position today to ask the questions to Ms. Douglas. Again, Ms. Douglas will reach out to every individual one-on-one.
Absolutely. Just for clarity, I wasn't, my questions weren't to Ms. Douglas, but to Mayor Woodfin and or his staff with this new information about Carolyn being assigned to us. I just had a couple questions, if I might.
So the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman Dr. Hannon. I guess my first question, and I just want to make sure I think I missed something. First of all, how are you doing today, Mayor Woodfin? How's your day going?
It's good.
Good. Did I think you may have said that you spoke to some board members about this new, assigning this new staff person to the land bank before doing so. Did I hear that correctly?
No, sir, you did not.
So let me interject here at this point, and this, I will call a point of order as the chairman of the board. And I would like for this particular line of questioning to take place at another time. And we, at this point, are going to move forward with the agenda.
Okay, sir, Dr. Hannon, I'll move forward then with the resolution as you as I was initially given the floor for. If that sounds good to you, Dr. Hannon.
Yes.
Okay. Well, so the resolution, I think we were told this would be an amendment to adding this would then be an amendment to the agenda, if I heard correctly from Mr. Goldman, in which case this would be a resolution 020421.5. But essentially the resolution is rooted in a request for the passage of a funding agreement between the Land Bank Authority and the City of Birmingham. And so if this is something that the board is interested in, I can kind of, wrote out some potential messaging, which I guess I'll read here. And then maybe we'll have some discussion about the potential passage of it. Does that sound good, Dr. Hannon?
Yes, the floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So my current thought was the resolution would essentially say something along the lines of, whereas the funding agreement between the Birmingham Land Bank Authority and the City of Birmingham expired on October 29th, 2019, and whereas a new funding agreement was submitted to the City of Birmingham in 2019 and has not been approved by the City of Birmingham in over 14 months, and whereas the proposed funding agreement requests that, quote, all city employees assigned to the authority must be merit-based hires, end quote, and, quote, the Birmingham Land Bank Authority Board shall have input on the creation of the job description for all new city employee hires to be assigned to the authority, end quote. Just for clarification, those are cut and paste from the proposed one. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Birmingham Land Bank Authority as follows. 1, request the swift passage of a new funding agreement between the City of Birmingham and the Birmingham Land Bank Authority, and that the new funding agreement should outline the procedure for assigning any new city employees to the authority. 2, Birmingham Land Bank Authority opposes the City of Birmingham hiring or assigning any new employees to the authority without input from the Board of Directors of the Land Bank Authority. 3, the Board of Directors of the Land Bank Authority supports Eric Fancher as the Land Bank Administrator with a vote of confidence, and recognizes Eric Fancher as the Executive Director of the Birmingham Land Bank Authority. 4, the Birmingham Land Bank Authority is requesting the swift hiring and onboarding of a housing rehab specialist and administrative assistant. The hiring and onboarding procedure should follow all guidelines listed in the proposed funding agreement. So it doesn't have to say exactly that, but that's kind of a general thought I was having, and I was interested in thoughts from board members and just some discussion.
Is there discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Please proceed.
Well, I appreciate Director Burton putting this resolution together. I do think it's important. Obviously the COVID and the pandemic have introduced a wrinkle in everybody's operations. And certainly the city, maybe more than many, is affected by it, City of Birmingham, just because their operations have been affected at all levels. Notwithstanding how COVID has impacted us all, I do think it's important for us to kind of have these sincere and honest conversations with the City of Birmingham. As you stated, they're our most important partner. Not only do we share missions, but they're our major donor, our major sponsor, our only sponsor right now, other than the sale of these parcels. So what I appreciate about what Director Burton is maybe putting a formal resolution around is how do we create a framework for these sincere, candid conversations so that we can begin to, like I say, the goal in my mind, and I'm speaking one of 7 board members. I serve at the pleasure of the mayor. I'm one of his appointees, so he could ask me to leave today, and I would say thank you for the opportunity, sir. But I do think it's important in the interest, again, me individually, I think we need to, as a land bank, begin to step out on our own a little bit more independently. And in order to do that, we're going to need to have these really kind of frank conversations with the executive leadership team, the mayor, to be able to understand how do we fund ourselves, including the city's support, and how do we hire staff to be able to further the needs of the land bank. So I'll just say I support this idea of a resolution in as much as it begins to create a framework for how we have these conversations.
All right, any other discussion from the board? Mr. Fancher?
I don't have anything.
Okay, so as a point of procedure, we as a board need to, for a motion of this stature, we as a board need to first vote to amend the agenda. Am I correct, Mr. Goldman?
That's correct.
All right. So that needs to take place first.
Yes, sir. And so at this point, you would be looking for a motion to amend the agenda that was properly seconded.
Point of clarity. Are we saying we're putting this motion on the floor to vote on today? For this resolution?
Director Burton?
If the board is ready to do so, yes, I think the funding agreement's been outstanding for a long time. And my goal is simply to help us move this process along. And so I think the sooner we make our request for the passage of the funding agreement clear, then hopefully the quicker we can work together with the city of Birmingham to bring this to a conclusion in order for us to best fulfill our mission and support our staff in order to do their job. At least if we could make a motion to add the resolution in order to have time to discuss it.
All right, so is there a motion on the floor to amend the agenda for today to include this resolution?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
quick question. We still have a quorum, correct?
I'm not, let me, Eric, can we do a quick roll call? I'm sorry, Mr. Fancher, can we do a quick roll call?
Mr. Fancher, you're muted, I believe.
There we go. Director Hannon?
Present.
Director Watson?
Present.
Director Green?
President.
Director Burton?
Present.
Director Anderson?
Present.
Yes.
Right, so we do have, we're missing 2 board members, but I think we still have a quorum.
Yes.
So I do not hear a motion.
I will motion to amend the agenda to add resolution 02.04.21.5 to the agenda for discussion.
Second.
Director Hannon?
Aye.
Director Watson? Director Green?
Aye.
Director Burton?
Aye.
Director Anderson.
Aye.
All right, that's 5 ayes. Passes. So now it's on the.
Okay, so we have voted to amend the agenda. Okay, so now the next resolution can be placed.
Director Burton, I didn't get all of your resolution, so I'd like Director Burton to read the resolution.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes, sir. I can do so. So, resolution 2.04.21.5, whereas the Birmingham Land Bank Authority, the authority, is a local land bank authority created and organized by the city pursuant Act number 2013-249 of the Alabama Legislature, the Act, Code of Alabama 1975, 24-9-1, and the resolution number 928-14 of the Birmingham City Council to acquire tax delinquent properties in the city of Birmingham in order to foster the public purpose of rehabilitating land which is in a non-revenue generating, non-tax producing status to an effective utilization status in order to provide housing, new industry, new commercial and economic development, other productive uses, jobs for the citizens, and to assemble parcels of real property for redevelopment, stabilize property values, and remove blight. And whereas the funding agreement between the Birmingham Land Bank Authority and the City of Birmingham expired on October 29th, 2019, and whereas a new funding agreement was submitted to the City of Birmingham in 2019 and has not been approved by the City of Birmingham in over 14 months, and whereas the proposed funding agreement requests that, quote, all city employees assigned to the authority must be merit-based hires, end quote, and, quote, the Birmingham Land Bank Authority Board shall have input on the creation of the job description for all new city employee hires to be assigned to the authority, end quote. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Birmingham Land Bank Authority as follows. 1. Requests the swift passage of a new funding agreement between the City of Birmingham and the Birmingham Land Bank Authority, and that the new funding agreement should outline the procedure for assigning any new city employees to the authority. 2. Birmingham Land Bank Authority opposes the City of Birmingham hiring or assigning any new employees to the authority without input from the Board of Directors of the Birmingham Land Bank Authority. 3. The Board of Directors of the Birmingham Land Bank Authority supports Eric Fancher as the Land Bank Administrator with a vote of confidence and recognizes Fancher as the Executive Director of the Birmingham Land Bank Authority. 4. The Birmingham Land Bank Authority is requesting the swift hiring and onboarding of a housing rehab specialist and administrative assistant. The hiring and onboarding procedure should follow all guidelines listed in the proposed funding agreement. That's the whole thing.
The discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Please
proceed.
All of the things Director Burton has brought in this resolution are important. We need to discuss. I think there's a lot of meat on this particular bone, and it probably deserves Director Burton kind of, it sounds like he's already got a draft in place. If that could be kind of distributed to the board, we could have further discussion that this particular meeting might not allow for. I at least would need a little more time to digest some of what's being recommended and proposed. I think, in general, I support all of what he's recommending by his resolution, but I don't know that I'm ready to vote on that as a whole, complete resolution. Not because I disagree with anything, but just because I need to probably consider it in more depth than this afternoon. So I just share that. Well, one, thank you, Director Burton, for putting that together. I think it's needed, but me personally, I feel like I need a little bit more time.
Right. Is there a motion? With that being said, thank you, Director Anderson. With that being said, is there a motion to table this until a further meeting in the future, until all board members have an opportunity to digest the information and develop a sound understanding of the resolution? And with the understanding that Director Burton will circulate a draft to all board members.
Point of clarity, we have a meeting next week, is that correct?
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Just a point of clarity, point of information, we have a meeting next week, is that correct?
Not sure when, like.
Let me jump in.
Yeah, sure.
We had requested a meeting on the 18th of, but I mean, that may be a meeting in you know, of its own. So, yeah, wanted to figure out a way to have a separate meeting sooner than the 15th or after that date, then you could do so. But that the meeting on the 18th is geared towards the foundation.
Would this be?
This is Brad. I would make a motion to support what Marshall's saying. I think I've been quiet this whole time and listening, and you know, hopefully that there's folks on from the city today that can help us open the lines of communication, and I think that's what, you know, everybody here wants. And you know, us passing this resolution to, you know, to support passing the funding agreement, well, I don't know what that really does without sitting across the table with the mayor and his staff and negotiating that. And I haven't heard anybody say that that has occurred or what's holding that up. But maybe we just need to table this and let the people at City Hall talk, and then we can circle back and hopefully make some progress together. And that's my thoughts on it. But I would make a motion to withdraw the resolution to pass the funding agreement today, if that's what Marshall's recommendation was.
Marshall was to table it.
Yeah.
Tabling it. That's fine.
Well, I bring it up as one board member, and I'm looking forward to other board members weighing in on it. Director Green, I appreciate kind of your input. I'd be interested in hearing what our chairman, vice chair think about this and how we need to kind of advance this. I'm looking forward to their kind of guidance here.
Right. What I suggest is that we table this until a future meeting and give each of the board members an opportunity to digest and develop a sound understanding of the resolution that Director Burton is putting forth. Because as each of us heard, I mean, it is detailed and certainly will require some due diligence on our part. And I think that there is not necessarily a rush to make a decision today. So I think just in, you know, our greater wisdom, I think that we should table this until a future meeting with the understanding that Director Burton will circulate a copy or a draft of the resolution to all board members, and it will receive discussion in one of our future meetings.
Would y'all be able to put a timeline on that for when that meeting will take place as an amendment to that resolution or amendment to that motion?
Do you have a time for the upcoming meeting, Mr. Fancher?
The meeting on the 18th is regarding the foundation is tentatively scheduled for 2 p.m.
Is there a way for us to have a meeting more quickly than that?
You could call a meeting within 24 hours, a special meeting. So it could be one on Monday to any day next week.
Mr. Fancher, will you please have someone check the availability of the board members for a special meeting next week?
Yes.
Okay. Terrific.
Just to give my thoughts. I'm not ready today to actually vote on the resolution today. Need time to think about it and process it, or to read it, think about it and process it. And as a part of that, I think it's been a while since the funding agreement that we have proposed or has been, being developed has been sent out. So if we could also, send that to the board so we can have that background as well. And looking at the fact that you got, well, I've been on the board a little over a year, and Marshall, Brad, Rob, so everybody else is new outside of that. It might take a little bit more to read and to process all of this, just keeping that in mind. But I favor tabling it to a meeting in the future. Unless you select a date, it will come back up at the next regularly scheduled meeting. So you don't table things indefinitely. I think it automatically comes back at the next meeting. So whether you do it next week or whenever, it will come up again.
Mr. Chair, this is not related to the resolution, so I may need to withhold kind of an additional comment until we've put this matter.
Okay, let's deal with this matter, and you will have the floor, Director Anderson. So is there a second to the motion to table the discussion until a later date? That date will be determined based on the meetings that we have and the circulation of the draft, and the special meeting that will be based on board availability next week.
Second. I think I'm seconding Brad's motion to table the resolution.
Mr. Fancher?
Mr. Fancher, you're on mute again.
I think you're on mute.
Director Hannon, 5 times. Director Hannon?
Aye.
Director Watson?
Aye.
Payne?
Aye.
Director Burton?
Aye.
Director Anderson?
Aye.
Motion to table passes.
All right, Director Anderson?
Yeah, also, one of the things that I very much appreciate, the mayor has always been a strong supporter of the land bank and continues to kind of an open ear to our concerns and our needs. The appointment of Mrs. Douglas and her expertise to the land bank, I know it'll be an asset. I appreciate kind of her willingness to kind of step into the maelstrom. Sounds like she's somewhat familiar with the goings on already. I would appreciate, and it may be that there's not an answer to this at this point, But I would appreciate, maybe in the coming days, coming weeks, having the chance to speak with Ms. Douglas, as well as kind of getting a better sense of what her role and responsibility would be within the workings of the current staff of the land bank, and how she might serve to help us better meet the needs of the residents. So I don't know if that answer is available right now, but if kind of in the coming week or more, we could get a better idea of where her expertise can be put to the best advantage, I'd appreciate some information on that.
I don't know if Caroline can speak, but let's just say this. It is my understanding that she was reaching out to each of you individually, basically immediately. If I'm not sure if her audio's on, and she could absolutely give you that information, and then any questions you have could be directly addressed.
Thank you, Mr. Hilliard.
All right, Mr. Fancher, I think we can proceed.
Okay, we've made it through the agenda. If there's any other members, and we're open to that. Now 5 items of the agenda.
I had a final question, if that's all right.
Yes.
I was just hoping, I know that we'll be learning more hopefully in the next week or so as Ms. Douglas reaches out to us. Could I get her title again?
I'm not sure what her title is. I'm not sure if her audio's on yet, but if it's not, we'll get it for you. We'll text it to you. I'm not sure exactly what it is.
Okay. Is this somebody that Eric reports to, or somebody that reports to Eric, or none of the above? Mr. Hilliard.
Actually not sure of the lineup of how things are, but I can tell you guys this, that I know that everybody has a little bit of discontentment, or they're unsure. I can tell you that a la what Eric mentioned with Denise Gilmore coming to the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, it was literally the mayor, it was literally the administration reaching out to help the organization, and it was a temporary thing to which she went back to her present position. I think I would not be as concerned about trying to figure out titles and things like that, than just to understand this is truly us listening to what you said to us in the last several meetings, and us reaching out to help the organization. We've done the things with the lobbying you asked about, with the legislative agenda you asked about, you asked for more support, and that's what the mayor's trying to reach out to do. I know there can sometimes be uncertainty when things change, but literally, as I've told every time I speak to y'all, I tell you that we only win if the land bank wins. So there is no situation where we are against the land bank. And honestly, you need to really understand that we win when the land bank wins, and that's our entire effort, is to make you guys successful. So Rob, we'll get you any other information at a later date. Like I said, she's reaching out to address that so you can see it, but understand that literally this is a team. And if you allow us to still have teamwork, then that's what we plan on doing. You ask for more direct support from the city, you ask different things, and this is a start to doing that. And we will continue like we did with, like I said, the legislative things. So I know you probably have a lot of questions, and in the future they will be answered.
Right. This isn't, of course, this is all about teamwork, right? And I think, we've all been, whether it's the legislative thing or so forth, we've been trying to work with you and your requests of us in terms of how y'all want us to move forward. I appreciate you offering to get information. I know Mr. Sparks is on the call. I don't know if Mayor Woodfin is on the call, but if I understand you not having that information, is Mr. Sparks have that information? I see him here on the call.
Yes, I can answer. So her title will be Special Director of Transition. And a part of what I've been tracking, when you hear the word transition, the assumption is that transition means it's transitioning to another person. But it's not. It's literally transition for the purpose of the space that Land Bank has been in with regards to support. We need to bridge the gap between what has been and what should be. So Attorney Douglas's role will be to come in and assist and work. As I've told the rest of the members of the team, per the mayor, will be to come in and to support the work that is already in play that unfortunately has not received the same level of aggressive attention. So you asked about organizational structure. So the space that she feels is because there's already an administrator. So the space that she feels is really, it's just the open space to, if you want to call it director, fine, but the special director of transition for us means bridge. So she and Eric would be working together. Like, her role is not to lord or to direct staff. That's not why she's there.
Okay, so she's the special director of transition for the land bank, and she is an equal to our administrator working underneath the mayor's office in order to help us move forward on addressing the needs of the land bank. Is that?
Yeah, so the director's position would be a position that you all would appoint. She's an assigned staff unit coming from us, from the administration. So yeah, their roles, when you hear transition, it's not transitioning someone out to transition someone in. It's transition from what has been efforts that have not produced what the goals are to what the efforts should be. So that's her role. And I think what Earl Hilliard Jr. said was spot on. The unfortunate part is I think a lot of the gaps and the discontent is because of the inadequate communication. And there's probably been a lack of interdepartmental cooperation, period. That all needs to change. And that's unfortunately why we're at this point, is because that has not existed. So I want for Eric and for Attorney Douglas to be in a space where we get the benefit of both of their expertise and of both of their hard work. And I think they have a pretty good working relationship. I think between the two of them, the goals of the board and the goals of the city to move Land Bank towards what it really should be, I think would be accomplished if there is a mutual understanding that none of this is meant to be adversarial. It's all meant to be cooperative. So if there are things that the board sees that can be done that will help facilitate that, certainly let us know, because a part of the goal today is to help shore up the gaps. And if there has been anything that's been communicated otherwise that would create angst or concern, we apologize for that. Certainly not meant to be adversarial, and it's absolutely meant to be supportive of the work that Eric and the rest of the team have been doing. This is purely meant to help.
Okay, so she'll be a liaison that will be taking her cues from Eric in order to be a liaison to help communicate with y'all, in order for y'all to understand what we need, such as passing the funding agreement and getting the car and so forth.
Oh yeah, so they will be working together. So a part of her job is to come in and assess as well the things that she sees as potential gaps. So this is what we recognize. We recognize the communication gaps that exist. Like, we really do. We see those. And we recognize that there's probably concern by Eric. So a part of this is meant to stabilize that. So when you say take the cues, Director Burton, it's really more cooperative from them, because again, the board will ultimately determine the director. This is a staff unit that's coming from the city to help support.
Right. I think from my standpoint of view, I can't speak for the board, but I feel like we've already determined our director. And I think that's where my confusion is, right? Is from, I again, speaking for myself, not for the board, I feel like we've already determined our director. And so I guess I'm confused when you say that this is used to transition into helping us determine our director. It just
That's not what I said.
seems like there's something I'm missing. And
That's not what I said. I'm sorry. That's not what I said. I was saying that the board determines its director. So you asked me to explain Attorney Douglas's role. I was simply explaining her role.
well, I guess this is something that hopefully I'm hoping we can get maybe a report from y'all in addition to these one-on-ones about exactly what
Right.
her job description is. Maybe if we could get a copy of that in order
Chief
to help us
Sparks,
understand, would that be possible?
Director Burton, let me step in here, please. And I, as the chairman, I believe that these are conversations that need to be had. But at this point, I believe that we also need to stick to the agenda of the meeting. And Chief Sparks has been gracious enough with his time today. And I think that he has answered many of our questions. But at the same time, I do not want to lose our focus for today. And so certainly, Director Burton, your questions are worthy. And I do think that they deserve answering. However, I think that as a point of order, I think that needs to be done at another time. And I would like Mr. Fancher to proceed with the meeting. And we are at this point rapidly losing board members. And so I would like to proceed with the meeting and stay focused on the agenda.
Okay, I think we are still in that any additional comments from the board phase. So there's
any additional comments?
I got a question for our officers. I know that y'all had requested a meeting with, did that ever happen?
No, Director Burton, can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Our last board meetings, I think our January board meeting, our three officers, Dr. Hannon, Director Watson, and Director Green, y'all had talked about reaching out to the mayor to plan a meeting with the mayor, with all three of y'all together in that meeting with the mayor. Did that taken place to date?
No, it has not taken place, but it is my understanding that it is a part of the mayor's agenda for us to meet, but it has not taken place yet.
Okay. My final question is for Mr. Datcher on the phone. Do we have an upcoming meeting scheduled yet for legislative stuff? And that'll be my final question for today.
Okay. Hey, good afternoon, board. We don't have a scheduled meeting. As we discussed some time back, the way that the legislature meets is kind of haphazard in terms of how things move, and it's even more so this year with the COVID restrictions. The speaker, Mac McClutchan, has set kind of a agenda for the way things should move. We are anticipating your legislation to appear on the agenda and be considered for the next Government Affairs Committee. And so that's where that piece of legislation is. Please know that we'll keep you up to date as those things move and as they progress. But that's where we are today.
Okay, Mr. Fancher.
Okay, that's all I have, save any more statements or concerns or questions. we've kind of covered old business and new business in our next steps. So.
I would like to go ahead and move into the meeting because you're losing Brad and I got 4 o'clock as well. So
I make a motion to adjourn.
second.
All right. That's it. Hey, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.